Hello, everyone. My name is Chris, and this is Bar None 11970. It is 2:38 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on November 3rd, 2016, and we are getting close to the presidential selection of 2016. Hopefully, you are all having a great day. And I want to talk a little bit about precious metals. This is one of the things that I've been talking about on my channel since the beginning. I've always told people that acquiring physical gold and silver and other precious metals are a good protection and should be, in my opinion, valued as insurance. Now, I'm going to give a little bit of a current. Let's see, and somebody just said, how do you watch this offline? Well, what'll happen is once it stops, it takes a little while to process. If you're subscribed to my channel, it takes usually about a half hour after it's done for it to process. Just come to my channel and watch my new video. It should be there. But the video just started, so if you're here, you can watch it now. Current price of gold, we've seen it's been definitely testing the $1,300 mark. So we've had a nice increase the past couple of days. It's now at 1302. And silver in the past week has gone from 17 and change to currently at 1836. And even with that, it's down 17 cents. So we're testing the $18 mark. Dow Jones currently right now is at 17,959.27 points. So that is below the 18,000 and the high of around 20,000 a while back. And I even made a video a while ago, have we reached the peak of the Dow Jones? And ever since I made that video, we've never topped it. So, one of the things, if you know anything about the market, they hate not knowing what's going on. They hate when things are chaotic. They like things to be as stable as possible. And from the research that I've had, I've learned that pretty much the market has been set for Hillary Clinton to become president. So basically, if she is selected to become president, well, nothing would really happen to the market because they've already set themselves up for it. So what would happen if Donald Trump ends up becoming president? Which, of the two, I hope he's the case, even though I've said on many occasions, no one person is going to change a corrupt system. And as much as we would love to hear that, it's just not going to happen. But what would happen? Well, since they've set the market for Hillary Clinton, because you could see the media and everybody else has been trying very hard to drive it down our throats, how, one-sided they are. If Trump becomes president, in my opinion, what I think is going to happen are twofold. You're going to see a major drop in the Dow Jones. Now, I'm not talking about 5,000, 10,000 points or anything like that. I would say a couple of hundred to maybe 1,000 points in that area. And you would see the price of precious metals start going up rather quickly. Now, if it stays there, I'm not sure about that. You'll get a lot of people, when you see big spikes, you'll get a lot of people that were afraid of this market and been holding on to their gold and silver positions for a long time now, waiting for a moment to get out because they don't see what's potentially down the road. You'll see a lot of sell-offs. But I really think if Donald Trump becomes president, you're going to see a spike in gold and silver. I would predict that the gold would probably be in the high 13s, maybe reaching 14. It'll be hard to hit the 14, but I think high 13s, possibly 14. And silver, my prediction would probably be mid-19s to lower 20s. Now, I don't think it would stay that way, because I think what would happen is the media, the politicians, everybody's basically trying to scare people that if Trump becomes president, there'll be uncertainty. And they think they're trying to give that fear of, well, he's not the typical politician, so he's going to destroy the country. So you're going to see a sell-off to scare people. And that's why I warn people that they're looking for, and by they, I'm talking about like the Federal Reserve and the corporations, the politicians, they're looking for a scapegoat to cover what's inevitable, and that is them borrowing so much money to the point where they cannot be repaid, because the interest alone is eventually going to get to the point where it's going to be higher than any income that we could make, any taxes they could take from the people, anything that they sell overseas, and it's going to shut down. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It's like blowing into a balloon. If you continually nonstop blow into a balloon, you know eventually that balloon is going to pop, but you don't know the exact second when because it has flexibility. So that's why we haven't had this whole collapse, because we have the dollar as the world currency as far as the petrodollar is concerned, and they're able to export a lot of the dollars around the world. So it limits the amount of inflation. But eventually, if countries start losing confidence, and you see countries like China, India, Russia, all these others starting to lose confidence over the years, it only takes one to do a major sell-off of our bonds that all of a sudden confidence is lost, and there goes the value of the dollar. So that's one of the reasons why I've always told people, if you believe in this as protection, to get yourself physical gold and silver. Stay away from the paper markets. Don't put your gold or silver or anything in another person's possession. In other words, bank vaults. Because if a bank shuts down, you have no more access to your items. So as much as people say, oh, it's protected in a bank vault, that's only if you're provided that it stays open. If it shuts down, there goes all your items. Because one of the things people don't understand is that when you deposit something into a bank, what you're technically doing is giving it back to them. The reason that they allow you to take a percentage of your quote-unquote money out or your possessions out is that if they told you, no, you can't have it, people would have a problem with it and no longer contribute their quote-unquote money to their corrupt system. So my thing is, if you're interested in gold and silver as a protection, this might be the time to start stacking up a little bit extra. And if you feel that Donald Trump is going to become president, somehow beat the odds of a corrupt system, well, I would definitely see the prices of the precious metals going up, and I would definitely see the Dow Jones going down. And when I was talking earlier about the scapegoat, they need something to blame. Now, obviously, Hillary Clinton has said it, and the politicians say it, and the media says it, they blame Russia. The whole WikiLeaks thing, they try and direct you not into what's being said in the emails and who's saying them. They want you to be mad at the messenger. In other words, the old saying, don't kill the messenger. So they're trying to get Russia as the scapegoat. But if, for example, if there's going to be a collapse in the economy, well, what better president to have that happen under than Donald Trump? Because then they could say, look, we tried to warn you. He's not the typical politician. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Look at this collapse that all of a sudden happens. And then people are going to panic. And when they lose their quote-unquote money, that's when revolutions and civil wars and riots and all these other things can potentially happen. And that is why the smarter people that use gold and silver as protection, in the long run, are going to be very happy that they did. Now, this is something I've been telling people since day one. If you are getting gold and silver to become wealthy, you're doing it for the wrong reasons, and you are going to be very disappointed. Because gold basically keeps up with inflation. So in other words, if 1 ounce of gold could buy you, let's say 1 ounce of gold could buy you a motorcycle 10 years ago. Now the price of the motorcycle at that time, let's say a motorcycle cost $400. And 1 ounce of gold was $400. Now, go to today. Let's say the motorcycle, that particular motorcycle is now around $1,300 to $1,500. It's definitely not, but we're just saying for argument's sake. The gold is now around $1,300. So it's not making you more wealthy. It's keeping up with the price of inflation. So you're breaking even instead of losing. So for example, if you had, like I said, in that time period, let's say you had $300 in cash and you put it in the bank. And let's just say they didn't take out any interest and you didn't spend it. Now all of a sudden, this time around, you take that money out to buy that motorcycle, you'll find out that back then when the motorcycle was $300, It's now 1,300, you can no longer afford it. So that money has lost its purchasing power. So if you are buying, especially gold, to make yourself rich, you're in this for the wrong reason. And that's one of the reasons, like somebody asked me a question yesterday about Bitcoin. Yes, Bitcoin right now will make you money, especially if you bought it years ago. But the thing is, it's a digital currency backed by nothing. And if they take over the internet, or if the electricity gets shut down, you have no access to your Bitcoins anymore. And, people are always saying, oh, well, in a time of an economic crisis, no one's going to want your gold and silver. Do you think anybody out there is going to want Bitcoins? Just imagine if all of a sudden, worst case scenario, there is an economic collapse and people can't pay their electric bills and the banks shut down and the internet gets, taken over by the government so they can censor things. Martial law happens. You run out of food, or you're starting to run out of food, so you go to the grocery store. Now, obviously, your dollars are not worth as much anymore, so you could barely buy anything. Do you think any of them are going to take any of your Bitcoins? How are you going to give it to them? It's not a physical thing. So I would be very careful about that. So I don't want to make this video too long. My job is not to tell you how to live your life. What you resonate with is totally up to you. I am giving what I feel could happen, and I'm giving my opinions of what I've been doing. If that resonates with you, great. If not, you do what you feel is right for your family. I just say the more research you do, the better chances of your protecting your family and yourself properly. Don't just base things on what other people say, including myself. Get the information and then follow up on it. Research with it. Think for yourself. Until the people stop trusting other people to the point where they allow other people to do all the work for them and they start doing things for themselves, they were always going to be under their control. So don't do that. One of the biggest things about my channel is teaching people to think for themselves. Now, that doesn't mean you can't listen to people's advice and you can't hear what other people have to say, whether it's good for you or bad for you. Because even listening to people that you think are bad, you can learn what not to do or what doesn't resonate with you or how to do it differently or better. So my thing is listen to everybody, but don't believe 100% of what you think is going to happen. Because I really think if Donald Trump becomes president, within the first year of his presidency, that's when they will give a potential economic collapse. Because then they could basically have their scapegoat. They could say they've warned people before the election that Trump would destroy everything, and then all of a sudden, what was going to happen anyway, they allow to happen faster during Trump's term, so they could blame it on him, and the people will turn on him instantly. Because people love somebody until they affect their quote-unquote money. So I'd be very careful about that. And Sempi35 made a good comment. He said, pre-1965 silver coins are a good way to barter for things you need in an economic crash. Those are definitely easy to acquire, and they are very cheap. Because one of the things that people have asked me all the time is, like, how do I get gold and silver if you have a budget? Well, you can get, and this is why they say pre-1965, because from 1964 down, the dimes, quarters, and half dollars were 90% silver. Today's quarters, dimes, and half dollars are made mostly of zinc and some copper. They don't even use as much copper as they used to. So that's where you could see the devaluing of something. They look the same. Like, for example, a 1964 quarter looks almost exactly now because they changed the image, but let's just say a 1990 quarter. They look exactly the same. The only difference is the quality of the metal. For example, if you bought a car, if you bought a car that's made of solid gold, it's going to be a lot more expensive than a car made of plastic. But if you have, for example, a car made of silver, it's going to be more expensive than a car made of steel, even if they look the same color. So they trick you. And it's the same thing with your dollar bills. If you look at a dollar bill from the 1950s, it will say silver certificate. If you look at a bill from the 1920s, it will say gold certificate. That meant they were backed by different metals, and they reduce it over time. So it looks the same, pretty much, but it has a lesser value. So that's the biggest thing people don't understand. Since the introduction of the Federal Reserve in the early 1900s, I believe 1913, we have lost approximately 96% of our purchasing power. So that is why things like physical gold and silver will help you in the long run. But for somebody that doesn't have a lot of money and says, oh, well, I can't afford big bars of gold and silver. Well, they have gram bars of silver. They have gram bars of gold, which a gram of gold right now would probably cost you roughly around $60. That's not a lot. But even if you can't afford that, you can get things like a silver dime, which is from 1964 down, which has 90% silver. A silver dime with 90% silver roughly is around $3 or $4, depending on where you get it. And most people know what a silver dime is. So what I tell people is research. Learn about the weight and the diameter of something like a silver eagle and gold coins. Learn about the gold and silver bars. The more you research, the more you protect yourself from fraud, because there is a lot of fakery out there. So you really have to know what you're doing. And a lot of times it's not people lying to you, it's just they're not aware of what they have. So there's plenty of ways you can test your metals to make sure they are legit. So that's my video. I want to thank everybody for listening. This is going to be an interesting time to see what happens. You do what you want as far as voting is concerned. I have several videos that explain how and why your votes don't count. Unfortunately, most people don't want to grasp this truth. And that's how the scam continues and how they get away with all these things. Because people say, why aren't people like Hillary Clinton and all these people in jail? Well, if you don't know how their corrupt system was created back in 1871, and even earlier before that, but became very official in 1871, and especially after 1933 when this country went bankrupt for the final time, you're never going to know how the corrupt system works. So my recommendation is, I have a video if you haven't seen it. It's The Truth About the United States Law and You. The extended version is the one I would recommend. It's about 90 minutes long, but it will give you information that is absolutely going to be helpful. Just keep in mind, I'm a regular person. I'm not some, corporate media person, so you're not going to have, $1 million background. You're not going to have fancy lights. I'm not going to speak from a script. I was talking from the heart, so it might seem a little dragged out a little bit, but if you pay attention to it and stick with it, you will get a lot of information. And that's why I tell people, get the Constitution, get a book on the Constitution, and get a book called the Black's Law Dictionary from the 5th edition or earlier, and learn about legalese, which is legal definitions. So until people understand that, even people in this quote-unquote community are not going to understand why their votes don't count. Registering your vote will make you feel good, but it's almost like having a slot machine where you pull the lever and the buttons spin, but the computer inside dictates when it stops. It's nice to think you contributed by pulling that lever, but you're not the one that's causing it to do what it's doing. It's the same thing with the vote. So yes, you can go down there and you can place your vote, but that doesn't mean it's going to be tabulated the way you did it. And that's the part most people are clinging to and thinking, well, the only way we can make change is by registering a vote. Well, if you think in a corrupt system that we've seen now so blatantly obvious as corrupt, if you think they're going to allow an honest election, then you're kidding yourself. So we'll see what happens. So thank you so much, all the people that take the time to listen. Especially I want to thank the people that help share my videos, because like I've said in many videos, the more subscribers I get, the less views I'm getting, which means my information's not getting out there. I'm not going to stop, but it does hit my wallet a little bit, because all the ad revenue I lose because of the amount of minimum viewers definitely affects me, and it kind of sucks that they do that. But I don't care if I ended up with 0. I'm still going to put this out because it's important, because our future's at stake. And if you appreciate that stuff and what I do try and do, please help share it. Post videos like this on your social networks, and get people to subscribe to my channel. So to all the people that are leaving comments now, thank you so much. Remember that once this video ends, it usually takes about a half hour to 40 minutes before they process it. So the video will come online to see it anytime. Please pass it around. Please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. So thank you very much. All have a great day. And don't forget to have your trolls spayed or neutered.